Hello guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Lone Vic and today a new arrival in my inbox, Trekking Through History, which is a game for 1 to 4 players, about trekking through historical events and getting to know some facts about those. In this video I will be talking about how to play a multiplayer game and how to set the game up as well. If you like the video and you would like to support the channel and what I'm doing here, you can always like the video, click the subscribe button under the video and ring the notification bell as well. If you have any questions about the rules or any comments about the game, please leave them in the comment section. I'm trying to answer everything as fast as I can. And right now, without going into a lot further detail, let's take a look at how to set up a game of trekking through history. Okay, so guys, for every game of trekking through history, we need the following big components on the table. You need a playmat that I've got over here. You need the tray with the resources in different colors. We've got blue, green, yellow, red, the purple wild tokens, and the crystals. The 3 decks of cards, which as you can see are distinguished by the color of the frame and the number 3, the Roman number 3, the Roman number 2 and the Roman number 1 over here. You need the clock board, you need the time warp cards if you are playing with those, and those are the main big elements. Now, to finish up the setup, you should take the ancestor cards from the box, which look like this, and depending on the number of players, place a few of them over here. If you are playing a 2-player game, you place 6 ancestors on here, and I will be pretending that I'm setting up a game for 2 players. If it was a 3-player game, you're placing 9 copies of the ancestors over here, and if it's a 4-player game, all the 12 ancestor cards go here. You take the deck marked with level 1, you give it a good shuffle and you place it over here and then distribute 5 cards from the top of the deck onto the empty spaces. Like so. The remaining 2 decks are here for later use. Give each player their clock token and place all of the clock tokens on the 12th hour of the clock, and whoever's token is on top will be the starting player. Each player also receives a crystal tank, so I will place the red one over here and I will place the yellow one somewhere here. I will be discussing the red player's turn usually, and 1 marker goes on the victory track, as you can see, and if you are playing with the time warp add-on, you should give the 2nd marker to each of the players, and if not, it can return to the box. So I will place the markers nearby. Each player should also get a turn reference card. And finally, you take this deck of itinerary cards and you randomly distribute 4 itinerary cards per player. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4 for the other player. The rest of them goes back into the box. Now, each player at the beginning of the game, so when all the cards are already uncovered here in the row, selects one of their 4 itineraries to start the game with. So let's say that I will start with this one, and the remaining 3 are left for the future of the game. And so the yellow player also would select one, for example, this one, and the rest would be waiting. One last thing to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is that each player starts with 1 crystal in their crystal tank. If you want to play with the time warp add-on, you also have to do one more step in the setup. Shuffle the time warp cards, choose 3 of them, put the rest back into the box, and from those 3, you select the first one, which you place here on the clock board, and leave the rest, the 2 remaining ones, for the future of the game. And this is the whole setup, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, we can start playing Trekking Through History. So first, let's talk about the general idea of the game. In Trekking Through History, players will be taking turns advancing their watch token on this clock board in order to collect the cards from this display, add them to their collections, and those cards will be providing the players with these resource tokens that you can see here, and the players will be placing those tokens on their itineraries in order to score those green victory point symbols, move along the victory track, and whoever collects the most will win the game. The game is played over the course of 3 rounds, so each player will be going around the clock 3 times basically, and those decks will be changing after each full circle of the clock. So now let's take a look at how the turn of the game breaks down. So the player who starts the turn as the first one is the player whose marker is on top and is the furthest behind on the clock. So in this case, the red player is the first player to move. If the situation, for example, was like this, that the red player has already moved, the yellow player is the player who is the furthest behind, so the yellow player would be moving then. So the turns are not fixed. Sometimes, hypothetically, the yellow player in this situation, for example, could make a move that will cost him only 1 time, and then he would be able to move again. Or for example, if the yellow player did a move that allows him to move 2 times, then he would be the player on top and he would also be able to move again. So the variable turn sequence in this game is also a strategic element. So on your turn, you decide which card do you want to collect from this display board. And this determines by how much do you need to move your watch token. This number here in the lower left corner of each card is exactly that. So you can take either any card that's uncovered, including this one, from the display, paying the cost in advancing your watch, or you can grab your ancestor card for 3 time, but we will get back to this ancestor card in just a moment. So let's say, for example, that I'm taking this card as my first one, and this costs me 2 times. So the red player would advance the time to 2. I add this to my collection. And what happens is that by collecting this card, I'm getting this yellow token that's printed over here, but I'm also getting the red token from the space to which the card belonged. So I will take a red token and a yellow token, and I will place them both on the first topmost spaces of the respective columns on my itinerary. And then the cards will move to the right, and the next card will be displayed, and it will be the yellow player's turn right now. So this is very, very simple, as you can see. On my turn, aside from taking one of those cards, I can also take an ancestor card by paying the time, or I can trigger once per round the effect of the time warp card, if we are playing with the time warp add-on, by paying the time instead of taking the card, triggering the effect, and placing my player marker here to symbolize that I've already used this effect this round. Now those warp cards come in 2 varieties. They can have a watch symbol here, which means that you trigger this effect once per round by paying the cost, or they can have an infinity symbol here, which means that the effect is the passive effect that's ongoing for the entire round for all players. Okay, so what about your collection? First, there are a few rules that you need to follow when you are collecting cards. First things first, when you collect cards, the next card that you collect has to be of a later time period than the previous cards in the stack. So if I started at 12,000 BCE, then I can basically collect any of those cards right now because they are all later in chronology in my next round. But if, for example, in my next round, I've collected this card and obviously added this 1 red token and 1 crystal into my collection, I would later be able only to collect cards that are later than 1809. So this and this and this and this, all of those cards would be unavailable to me. So you always have to stick with the chronology. Now, if you don't want to collect a card that's later in the chronology to add to your collection, or you cannot collect any cards because all the dates are earlier in the chronology than your latest card, you've got 2 options. Either you can basically collapse this stack of cards that you are collecting, place it horizontally next to your itinerary board and start collecting a new stack of cards from the earliest to the latest. Or you can purchase an ancestor card for 3 time and add it to the end of your column. This means that you get a wild token, which can be placed on the topmost space of any of the columns, so it can represent any color, and you basically duplicate the date of the last card. So this prolongs your stack by 1 and allows you to wait it out to see what other cards can be uncovered in a game. Okay, and now when it comes to the itinerary and the crystals from your crystal tank can be spent to shorten the time needed to collect a card. So for example, if this card has 4 time on it and I want to collect it, I would be able to spend 1 crystal and then I would move my watch only 3 spaces on the board. And the itinerary over here has those green spaces that when covered with a token, wild or the designated color one, give you victory points, some spaces that provide you with crystals, and those horizontal lines, which mean that if you cover all the spaces belonging to the horizontal line, you get the reward that's printed on the right. And thus you collect those victory points and you collect those cards and you move those cards and add new ones until all the players reach the starting space again, so the 12 o'clock. And there is one rule additionally when it comes to this. Now, if the situation hypothetically was like this, and it was the yellow player's turn, so now the yellow player could collect, for example, a card with a value of 4 time, lower it by 1 with a crystal to have a value of 3, and if the yellow player moves 1, 2, 3 and lands directly on the space of 12, they get 3 victory points as a reward for being punctual. And then, for example, the yellow player's turn in this stage of the game, in the first stage of the game, is done because they've reached the last space on the clock, and it's now the red player's turn. And the red player, for example, let's say that I don't have this card so that I can make an honest move right now, so I'll put it down here. The red player wants to collect a card that has a cost of 5 time, but they are already here. So the red player will be able to collect the card and get all the rewards. So the yellow, blue token, wild token, and crystal, and they will move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would get them too far. So they only move up until here and they will be the first player for the next round, but they don't get the punctuality bonus because they didn't land exactly on the 12th space by moving with 5 right now. And once each player, whatever it is, a 2-player game, 3 or 4-player game, reaches this last space, we do the following. We clean up the deck of the corresponding round, we put it back into the box, we take the next deck, in my case it's number 2, and we display all the cards. The players keep their current stacks and all the horizontal finished stacks. They keep their crystals as well, but they return all of the tokens from their itineraries into the box. They discard their current itineraries and they take the remaining ones that they had. They choose a new itinerary out of those, and in the second round they will be completing a new itinerary and continuing with the stacks that they had. And then for the third round, it will be the same. And after the end of the third round, when you do the circle for the third time and you'll be playing with the blue deck with the Roman number 3 here, after this finishes, the game ends. If you are also playing with the Time Warp add-on at the end of each round, you discard the card and you take the next one from the 3 that you've selected in the beginning of the game. And as you can see, this one has a passive effect which will last you for the whole game. And at the end of the game, you calculate the points. You have some points that you were collecting throughout the game for your itineraries, and then The only thing that you add is 1 point per every crystal that you have left over at the end of the game, and also you count all of your horizontal finished stacks of history cards, and the current one will also get finished right now. And if a stack consists of only 1 card, you get -3 points. If a stack consists of 2 cards, you get 0 points. If you have a stack of, for example, 6 cards, you get 10 points. And if you have a stack of 10 cards, you get 30 points. And each additional card above 10 gives you +3 points. So you'll be basically counting all your stacks separately according to this track scoring column over here, and the player who gets the most wins the game. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, this is a very, very easy and quick game to play. So hopefully this short video clarifies a bit how you should playing Trekking Through History. If you have any questions, there is the comment section for that. If you want to find out how to play a solo game, there will be another video on my channel very soon with a solo rule explanation and my solo playthrough. And for now, thank you very much for watching. If you want to support the channel, click the like button under this video, hit the subscribe and ring the notification bell, and see you very, very soon in another of my videos on my channel. My name was Lone Vic. This was Trekking Through History, a very simple game about visiting historical events. And see you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.